I'd like to officially call our last meeting of the Human Affairs Committee for the year 2023 on December 12th, 2023. Call the meeting to order. Rather than take roll call, let the record reflect that Jill Schechter is not present, but all of our other members are present. And Andy, we have a question for you when we get there, but we could talk about that after you do your presentation, if that's okay.
That was kind of a prime. That was just kind of a tease.
Yeah, a little bit of a tease. A little bit of a tease. Okay. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the November 14th, 2023 meeting of the Human Affairs Committee. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Second from Stuart. Motion from Rosemary, second from Stuart. And we're very pleased to have a special guest, our city manager, Mr. Andy Hall, who has a special presentation for us. And then if he doesn't mind sticking around for a few minutes, just in case anybody has any questions, that would be fabulous.
No, I'd like to stay for the whole meeting. One thing I'll say is you have a low bar if you guys are excited. I don't mean to take over your meeting at all. They gave me this. They said, well, we want a presentation on what the role of the Human Resources Committee is, or Human Affairs Committee is, and what. By the way, if you didn't know, we just did our class in comp, so I got human resources. So I may say human resources more than I say human affairs. What the role of the human affairs is and how that interplays then with what the city council is trying to accomplish and what the staff is trying to accomplish and how all that works together. Well, that's an easy subject, So because I think that it's not black and white, I think a lot of it is it kind of is what's happening in the community, and I think that the human affairs probably more than the other committees. I think are, when you think about what they do, the other committees are a little bit more focused on public safety committee, public safety, planning commission, development related stuff. Human affairs, wow, that's a broad range. And I was looking at not only what you are expected to do, by the ordinance of the city, but then also what you have on your work plans. I thought, man, this is ambitious. A lot of the stuff that you guys have to do, and it's not kind of focused on anything. It can almost be anything that's happening in the city. So I think that you guys have a really challenging position. But I'm just wanted to kind of just shoot through this really quick, and hopefully it will spur on some conversation. Because I'm going to learn from you guys as much as you'll learn from me, because not every city has human affairs committees. This is a little bit rare. Almost every city has a public safety committee or a transportation committee or a planning commission or whatnot. Human affairs is a little bit different in this day and age. I can only imagine the conversations you guys get into when you're dealing with human affairs, and especially when you think about what's happening right now. We're watching presidents of Ivy League schools have to resign because they used the wrong word, right? And some people will say unhoused and other people will say homeless. And if you say the wrong word, someone's going to be very upset at your committee or in your meetings. And so people are really, really sensitive right now about human affairs, and they know that's, and I would imagine that there are a lot of different ideas and feelings amongst this group when you're trying to provide recommendations to the city council. So I look forward to our discussion, actually, and just cut me off anytime you need to, because I know you have work to do. But did want to start with, just hit the space bar. So this is what everybody thinks you guys came here to do today, right, at City Hall. And we're human affairs. This is easy. See? You guys broke it down.
It's got a suit and a tie on. I don't think that's us at all.
Probably not. But this is what you guys really deal with, is this every time you get a phone call, right? Go ahead. It's more that, it's like, oh, and someone's screaming about this, that, or the other, and that's challenging. And I'm glad that they keep us on line. But I do want to go over some of the importance of the roles of the committee. So really, the way I think the city council looks at this, and the way you should look at it, is you're really more of an extension of staff, not an extension of the council. You allow the council to explore things that our staff simply doesn't have skill sets to explore. We don't have anyone on staff that's going to address, that's been one of the real challenges with homelessness. Now, someday maybe we're going to have a staff member that deals with that, but right now we don't. And so it allows the council to extend their staff a little bit and address things that we don't have those kinds of players on staff. But The work plan is approved by the city council, and that provides you kind of your guidance and your parameters. And I brought that in, and I noticed it's on your agenda. And you guys, by the way, this is really smart. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, this is really a good way to go, because I think a lot of the committees kind of get a little bit of creep to what they're doing because they don't stay focused. So whoever made this agenda, that was really smart. It kind of keeps you focused on what you guys are doing. And I think that's. Oh, is it you? Well done. Well done. But I think that's very helpful because it kind of keeps you focused on what you're doing. At least this year, remember, this changes every year, and the community changes every year. So staff is a resource, but direction to staff comes through the city council and the city manager. I think you guys are aware of that. I think that there are times when, not so much this committee, but there can be times when a committee will say, oh, well, so-and-so is our staff member. Could you have them write a paper through us about this, that, or the other? Really, staff here is here as a resource. And again, the council, I think, views this committee as an extension of the staff, not an impact on it. And not weighing it down, but actually extending some of the things that we can do in the community. But we know you have to have staff resources. You need to schedule meetings. You need to have minutes. You need those kinds of things. We understand that. And we want to be that resource to you. But there is not a full-time person assigned to the committees, and so just bear that in mind. You have like 3 other duties, I think, we give you besides.
I have 4.
So 4, okay, good. No, there's a lot of staff, there's a lot of hats here. They do a great job. But I already hit that. You can go. So you guys have some guiding principles, which I think are really good, and I think all of you have this book. And so they have some guiding principles that they set up in the municipal code for what you guys should be doing. And one is act in an advisory capacity to the city council. This is always challenging because you guys could do a lot of work, come up with a really great recommendation, what you think is the best thing to happen, and then for whatever reason, the city council doesn't adopt it or doesn't implement it. So I think it's always a good idea to remember that this committee was set up to provide recommendations to council. Sometimes they follow them, sometimes they won't. For whatever reasons they have chosen, I think most of the time they listen to their committees. There are just simply sometimes when, for whatever reasons, they'll either punt it back to you or they'll say, we need more study or something like that. Don't be offended by that. Just understand that the council has a perspective that's going to be different than yours because they don't dive into this every day. So sometimes it's okay to just kind of keep working it through. And you act, it says right in here that you act as a sounding board for human needs and homelessness. Now, I'm not sure what you think of that role. I don't know that there is a forum where people can come in and talk to you about the human needs in the community or homelessness or what that is. But I thought that was interesting, a sounding board for the human needs in the community. I think that's really cool. So I hope that maybe we can have some, once or twice a year, maybe have some outreach events in an evening or something. I tried to get out and do these coffees with the city manager. Maybe we could combine one of those and say, hey, we really want to hear what the human needs are in the community. Is there a need for, I was talking to a prospective employee who wanted to come to work here and said, I just can't do it. There's nowhere in San Clemente that I can live on the wage that you guys are paying. I can't do that. And I'm not ready to commute yet. The commute's too hard and whatnot. So is there a need somewhere for some workforce housing in our community? If so, where? That sounds like a planning issue. I don't know. Maybe it's a human need too. So I think that you guys have a lot of latitude to kind of look at what are the real human needs in this community. Access to human affairs needs, assess. I put that wrong. I read it right. I typed it wrong. Assess the human affairs needs on a periodic basis. Again, as I was going through this, and you probably have asked yourselves, what does that mean? What does it mean to assess the human affairs needs? I don't know what that means, but hopefully you guys can put some definition to that. Say, this is how we're going to assess that. There's very little guidance. That's word for word. Assess the human affairs needs of the community on a periodic basis. That's a tough assignment. I don't know what that. I'm sure you don't know what that means.
Purposefully nebulous.
Yeah, almost.
So it can be anything you want it to be,
Yep.
essentially.
Establish priority list, which is your work plan, approved by the city council, which they have done. I haven't seen this in any other committee, and I'd love to see it translated into the city council meetings. Limit meetings to 3 hours. I haven't seen it in any of the others, but I'm glad that you guys have limit your meetings to 3 hours and then perform other duties as approved by the city council. I think that might be the last slide. And then here's your current work plan. So you kind of boil all that general stuff down to you guys have some very specific things that you've identified. The community resource fair. I'm sitting here looking at all the things that you guys are looking at for your resource fair. That's really cool. It's really cool that we're offering these kind of services to our community. So I hope that you'll involve me in planning that. I think it's a great opportunity to reach out, and it's host a community resource fair. Well, you guys know this, to provide community resources focusing on homeless, elders, veterans, women in crisis, teens and children, special needs, mental health. That could be a pretty cool event. I haven't been to one of your events. Look forward to the next resource fair. And then you can see the others there. I won't go through them because you guys have seen your draft work plan. But I think that's the last one, right? Yeah. So the one thing I'll say is this is the first time I've met with this group, so I'm very glad to answer questions about me and who I am too. Some of you know, some of you don't. But very glad to answer questions or how I found myself here from Lyman, Wyoming, of all places. Somehow you find yourself to San Clemente. But what I'm very curious about is what Cord just said. How do you have very nebulous and very vague things that you're supposed to be doing as human affairs. How have you guys been able to find a way to move together as a committee and somehow bring definition to what human affairs means? And is it at all clear to you what the city council is trying to accomplish, or are you guys kind of left out here by yourselves and you're kind of working it through? Because it seemed like to me a lot of these are pretty vague compared to some of the other committee members. That was one of the things that I noticed just reading through it.
I'll tell you right now, Lisa did this last year. We had a game plan last year. I wasn't here, but it seems like we've kind of continued on. And I will have to, I kind of want to push back a little bit about we're here at the direction of staff, or we're an extension of staff, because I really see us as being a conduit to the city council. And one reason that it's so nebulous is because we're kind of going after things that the city council thinks are important on any given period. Mm-hmm. So if you know, it might be, well, it's not sand replenishment, but it could be the park. It couldn't be park either. There's something that strikes them, and we think it's important, and then they agree, and then we work on it.
Yeah.
And we get help. But at the same time, we don't go, I need you to do my work for me. We go, can we get some help for this? And they go, yeah, you can get a little help, or yeah, you can get a little money.
Sure. I probably thanks for the feedback. I probably meant it a little different. I think some committees believe that their role is to make decisions for the city, or policy for the city. This is going to be our homeless policy.
No, we are not.
And you guys are, I think, realize you're more like staff in that you take a recommendation to the city council and they're the ones who establish the policy. That's what I meant by the statement. Not that somehow I'm lowering you to a different level. It's just some committee members do struggle with, but we came up with this great plan and you didn't adopt it, and this is what we think the policy for the city should be.
Yeah.
That was what I meant to say. Okay. So if I didn't word that right, that was the intent.
We don't come here and just go, Tamara, what do we do?
No. Yeah, that was
how
I
we work
intended.
too.
That wasn't what I was intending to say. Sorry about that.
In the beginning, what we did is everyone kind of came up with ideas of projects they wanted to work on. Dick wanted to help refurbish the senior center, we're doing a painting project. So we all kind of came up with some ideas. And then we all voted on what, as a group, what we wanted to do, and then went to council, and then council approved, and that's kind of what the direction we're working on.
Yeah, you guys did a great job. That's what I mean. I was wondering how you were able to take such nebulous statements and come into what appear to be very, very direct kind of.
Well, some is a
Work product.
continuation, wasn't it, from last
Some,
year?
some are
Some
continuation.
are new, so.
Yeah,
it's
some
just-
are new, right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think
Well,
it's,
well done, however you did it, well done. It was really cool.
it's definitely improved since the work plan was implemented. When I first joined this committee in 2018, there was no work plan, and we knew even less what we were supposed to do based on the description of the committee. And people came up with their own things, And I think previous to that committee, there's just been different iterations of groups of people and sort of passions that they take on and what they work on. And I've heard it being affordable housing being like a real focus, and even as I remember, there was like a staff member that was focused on that too, and so the committee and the staff member worked on it together, and that was kind of one of their focus. I think it's interesting to compare that to the role of planning, where this falls in that. It's interesting to think about, but
You span a lot of things.
yeah, it's spanned a lot of things over the years, but I think the work plan has helped us to align our focus with what the city council wants us to be focused on. I think that's a good thing. So.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
So
I
I'll
think
speak to it since this is my second year chairing Human Affairs. And the first year we came in, we had all these lofty plans, and we made this extremely detailed work plan with no direction, no input. There was a column on the spreadsheet of budget expectation, budget required. And we did all this work, and we came up with all these things, and the first thing that we were told was, well, y'all don't have a budget. And we said, well, why didn't anybody tell us that before? And it was your predecessor. And I was like, well, that completely changes the nature of what we're able to do if we don't have any money. We didn't know. Nobody gave us any input up front on areas to focus on or things of that nature. And fortunately, this year we had a better idea of how to hone in on what we could really accomplish and be productive with. And the other thing that we face a challenge on is we're not staff, we're not city council members, we're not the city manager.
Who are we?
Right. And we don't have money, and we don't have voting rights, and we don't have authority. So how can we, as a bunch of volunteers that care about our city and want to make things better, have an impact? And what can we truly accomplish with the resources that we can bring to bear that can be positive for the city? So that's kind of the sweet spot where we sit, and we really tried to hone in, and everybody brought a lot of ideas that we winnowed down for our work plan, we voted on, and we decided to move forward. So that's kind of the genesis of, who we are and what we feel is our charter for the city. Now, if something comes up that we think is an excellent idea, like here's a great example. One of the work groups, and we're going to cover that in a little while, is tasked with learning best practices regarding homelessness of all of our surrounding cities, with the hope that there might be something that we can extract and replicate here. But what they're doing is they're putting together a master report with all the information that they gleaned, and we all came up together with answers to commonly asked questions and things that are sort of the high points of what we need to learn, right? And they're putting together that formatted report to submit to city council, and you'll review it as well to see if there's anything that maybe an aha moment. And we understand how complex between workforce housing and permanent supportive housing and a shelter and all the other issues, right? Supportive services, mental health issues, healthcare, this and that and the other thing. There are so many prongs to that bicycle wheel, or so many spokes to
Jurisdiction. Which county you're in.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, we know.
Yeah.
We know the
Right.
things that you face
Lot of
every day with
complexities.
anybody saying, Andy, why can't you do this? Well, it's over the line. I mean, we get it. But so that's where we are. So that will be an interesting project. They're already hard at work at it. And as we go through each of the work plan items, I would encourage, I already have an idea regarding the community resource fair based on what you said, that I'll talk about, we can talk about in our group. But I would encourage everybody, if we have any questions for Andy about our roles and responsibilities and what's appropriate in terms of what we should be focusing on and covering, I think this is a prime opportunity to ask that.
can I go back to the very first statement?
Sure.
I can't speak for any previous city managers. What I can tell you is that, at least with the current city manager, if you need budgetary support, don't think that there is not necessarily any money available for, let's pick the first one, the resource fair. If you guys need some money to do the resource fair, to be able to do this right and do the right kind of outreach and that kind of stuff, look, you guys are doing work that we otherwise couldn't do, and you're doing it for free. So I hope you recognize that you're allowing us to accomplish things that there's no way we could do with we'll do it a lot cheaper working with you than if we had to hire 7 people to do what you guys are doing. So your efforts are incredibly appreciated, and there is financing available for a lot of these things that you need to do.
So,
if that was told to you, I'm sorry. because-
no, that was 2 years ago.
Okay, good.
We
Okay,
fixed
good.
it. We have money. This flyer,
That doesn't make sense to me.
we're actually
I'm
going
sorry
to
to jump
ask.
on that one, but I was like, wait. how can
We're
you-
going to actually ask to have this printed up on heavy paper that we can distribute,
Nice.
and we are going to advertise in San Clemente Times. We want a banner over Del Mar and El Camino Real. There are a number of things that we want to do to really promote it effectively this year to get a great turnout. So we asked for some money, and we weren't really shy, and I don't think we're really shy if we find out that we didn't ask for enough and we need the extra $500. But we're not talking about $10 million. Just saying. We're talking about small bite-sized. We're talking about small bite-sized amounts of
I like how
money.
she says 10 million, so anything else sounds.
Yeah. Do you like that? I'm in sales.
on accident.
I'm in sales. I always ask for more than I know we're going to get. So just put it that way. Okay. So does anybody have any questions for Andy since he's blessed us with his presence?
Back on homelessness.
Yeah.
One of the things that Councilman Ed Meyer mentioned was that to explore a regional shelter. It's pretty obvious that our city council does not want any shelter within the city, and it seemed like there was a consensus that people would want to have a regional shelter. So I actually reached out to Dana Point and San Juan Capistrano, to their city councils, and said, this is what I understand the consensus is in our city, and do you want to work on this with us? And I got some pushback from Lisa saying that well, this really isn't our lane to do that. The city council is already working on this, which I understand is true.
Yeah.
And I would like to be a part of that process with the Human Affairs Committee.
So, in that particular case, what happened was about the same time you were engaging in some conversations with elected officials from other communities, elected officials were having conversations with elected officials from other communities, and so we started to get some,
Do you mean our elected officials?
yes.
We're having communication with other
other
cities' elected
That's
officials.
correct.
Okay.
And so what ended up happening is we got some phone calls saying, wait a minute, we just had this conversation with one of your council members. Now we have this person from one of your committees asking us the same. Well, they described you. No, I'm just kidding. No, we've got these calls coming in from one of your committee members. Who is it we're supposed to be talking with? Because homelessness in South Orange County is a sensitive subject. And so they thought, so I had a chance to talk with the other 2 city managers that are right here close, San Juan and Dana Point. What ends up happening right now is elected officials get calls from a lot of different groups. And they're saying, well, we want you to do this and this and this with homelessness and whatnot. And council members have gotten to the point where I don't know who I'm talking to, and if I say the wrong thing, I end up in the front page of the Orange County Register being anti-homeless and whatnot. So it's become such a sensitive thing. They just said, maybe this is something we just need to talk about amongst ourselves and not talk to, the American Coalition of Homelessness of South Orange County or whatever. I just made that up. But whatever that coalition is. So I think people thought you might be, believe it or not, they thought you might be one of those groups that's just trying to see, fish a little bit and see what each city's going to be doing. And believe it or not, cities are starting to get a lot of people saying, look, we hate to do this, but if you don't have a homeless shelter, we're gonna have to start taking legal action, or, you know, so you get a lot of these threats. And so homelessness has become a lot more about the business of homelessness than solving homelessness. And we face that, for example, and I'm going way deeper than you guys want, but that's, for instance, one of the real challenges we've had dealing with San Diego County on the south side of the line is San Diego County has a homeless czar that the last thing they want to do is take care of homelessness, because then their job would go away. And so homelessness has become a business for some communities. And what I think you're focused on, and I think what San Clemente wants to focus on, is how do we end homelessness? There's 75,000 people in this community, or 70 or 65 or whatever, lots of thousands of people in the community, and there's probably 40 or 50 homeless. Is there a way that we can actually solve the problem rather than, and we hear about things like Laguna Beach. So the city manager of San Juan Capistrano, I think you probably knew, used to run the homeless shelter in Laguna Beach.
Mm-hmm.
He said it didn't solve the homelessness in Laguna Beach. What it did was we took them up to sleep that night, and then we would have to take them back to the beach the next morning. And right now they're facing a whole bunch of lawsuits because the homeless have said, well, this isn't nice enough. We need different kinds of homeless shelters, and this is, so they're facing a lawsuit for having built a shelter. So I think everybody is trying to find a solution. And I guess we're all in the boat that if someone would have found it, everybody would have applied it. And I don't know anyone's found the secret sauce yet for addressing homelessness, but we all have to keep after it because there are real people out there. They're not, okay, the one dude that's left, I think there were 7 at one time. Now on the San Diego side of the line, I think there's 1 left. Is that right, Adam?
There's one tent with 2.5.
What? So we got that down to one house,
It's a structure.
one structure. But these guys are professionals. They're baiting us. They're wanting us to go take action against them because they're just wanting
Lawsuit.
for us.
Yeah, lawsuit.
And we've lost. The city's already lost a lawsuit to Dwayne. I think we're right.
Dwayne.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say, why aren't you overly aggressive? I don't want to give somebody else $25,000 for
Exactly.
doing nothing more than
Filing a lawsuit.
filing a
Filing a
lawsuit.
lawsuit.
So we're cautious. We try to follow all the laws, and that's very frustrating to residents. But again, I think Adam and his team have done a great job of slowly whittling that down to where it's a little bit more manageable. It's still not. I'm going deeper than you want in homelessness because it's hard for all of us, right? And I'm not trying to get emotional, but I will. I haven't figured out when we decided as a society that somehow the humane thing to do was to leave them alone. Leave them alone. They're fine.
Exactly.
Just quit. You don't need to keep trying to get these people in housing. Leave them alone. Why are you picking on them? There was a time when it wasn't okay for people to be living on the street. We didn't think that was all right. And if someone was in the middle of the intersection on Market Street and 5th in downtown San Diego screaming at a whole bunch of people or blue birds or whatever, they don't even know what's going on. And we said, oh, leave them alone. No, I don't know when that became okay. And so I don't
Benjamin
know.
Petra Short.
Yeah.
When we had now, it's become a little bit easier to 5150 somebody, but you know the fact remains that these people, if you are on drugs or you have a mental illness, the doctor can confirm this. They are progressive, so if they're not taken care of, they get worse.
My
But
wife's a psychologist, so I hear this every night. They're not
Okay,
doing it right.
well,
And I'm like,
and you also know, because you're a city manager, that the laws in California, state and federal, are against us. So, so you know the drill.
but to answer your question directly, I think we need to have better communication. I think in that particular instance, if you anticipate that you're going to be making contact with elected officials from other cities, you probably discuss this as a group. Whoever the staff person is here should probably talk to me and say, hey, they're going to go out and do that. I probably could have said, hey, they're already doing it. And so we can report back to you. I think a lot of it is communication, to answer your direct question. I actually think that it's okay for committee members. It probably was very appropriate for you to find out what other cities are doing. I would just simply call their city managers and say, hey, you know, we have a committee that's doing some outreach. Just want to make sure you guys know what's coming. In fact, I think did that. I think you contacted me and I contacted them afterwards and said, okay, this is, or I can't remember how that worked. It's been a few months ago.
You responded with an email saying, the next time you have a meeting, why don't you invite me and Meyer?
Yeah, something like that, just so they know it's legit, because they didn't know you were legit. They
Well,
thought maybe
we
you were.
just started just last month. You're talking about the time, you went to somebody else on your own, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
So, but we've got a committee, it's called,
Oh,
and
this has been, I don't know.
It's been a month.
Yeah, it's been a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So-
you
It's been
did
a while
it before.
So
So
what are we
that-
supposed to, this committee that, I mean, I've got the questions and all that, I've done all.
We're supposed
Are
to
we-
just
are we
stay
supposed
with
to do
the
this?
Everybody's on a hair trigger right now, just the way that Andy said. And it's just like,
so
what do you mean by asking that question, I think is what he's getting
Well, we're
at.
not gonna talk to elected officials, we're gonna talk to staff.
Yeah, well.
Well, but that's not what happened last time.
Right.
And so I think this direction is really important.
Right.
That, for example, when you take your meetings to get those questions answered, just run it up the flagpole with Andy and say, I mean, I think there's merit, and everybody chime in on this, but list out the questions that you're going to be asking of all the other cities, and then just let Andy know what your intentions are.
We started with Carly and Troy.
Yeah, but I'm
That's
saying,
exactly-
but what I'm saying, Dick, is
Yeah.
to go to other cities and talk to city managers, or if they have a human affairs committee, you want to talk to the chair of the human affairs committee, whatever the case may be, so that the lines of communication are open. And then if there's overlap, Andy can say, oh no, let's stay away from that because we're already doing that.
And a lot of it was subject matter related. Well, I think Corey's right. You'd be surprised how touchy it is to even touch homelessness when you're in a group of elected, like when you go to the League of California Cities meetings. Even homelessness there, it's very sensitive for anybody to even talk about it. Because remember, it used to be San Francisco or LA kind of leading the charge, and we got to be more, got to be more compassionate and whatnot. Well, you know what they're doing in San Francisco now? Now they're probably the most aggressive city in the entire state trying to get rid of homelessness. So all those things change so quickly, and the homelessness discussion is just incredibly sensitive. And the real challenge is they got the money for homelessness coming to the state, and they give it to the county. And the county holds the purse for the cities, and the cities say, well, in a city like San Clemente, what we're really worried about may not be the homeless on the street. It's the people that are one paycheck away from being on the street. We'd like to help with some community support and outreach, or women in crisis with kids that are just like one check from being homeless. And they said, well, no, we'll give you money for a shelter, but that's the only way you can use the money. But the state says, no, we've given the money to the city so that you can deal with near homelessness and whatnot. The county says, yeah, but that's not the program we want to run. That's the frustration for me, because I really believe, especially if you work with FAM, the danger in San Clemente is not so much what people would term as traditional homelessness. It's those people one paycheck away. And
what about underserviced veterans?
Yes, like
We actually don't have that many in town, to tell you the truth,
Right.
in San Clemente. But
Well, Oceanside.
but we have seniors. We have like 600
Right.
seniors that we're
They're
helping,
one check away.
one check away.
And that's what I'm worried about.
So
way more
Can
than homeless.
we
It's way
do
more than-
Tyler real quick?
Oh,
Way more
sorry.
than 30.
Sure.
If we have 30 homeless, it's more like 3,000 people that are that one check away.
Right.
Yeah, and I think your point is very well taken. Just that, obviously, reading the charge of this committee, that it's a sounding board for the city council on matters pertaining to human affairs, and you don't really need a sounding board to know that homelessness is an issue in San Clemente. So it's got the active interest of the entire city council and the city staff up to the city manager, and so. That's why when I rejoined this committee, I didn't want my focus to be on homelessness, because I didn't think that it was our lane, because it has so much focus from the city council and the city staff already. And so there are other ways I think that we can supplement that, like researching what programs other cities might be implementing to, support ideas and things like that. But in terms of actively involving ourselves in those discussions with electeds, I just haven't thought that it was really our role, because there's so many others that are already actively focused on it. But there's one other thing I just wanted to mention, a little bit off subject, but we're talking about, supporting folks that are on the fringe of becoming homeless, And it was a practice of this committee before I left, and it was kind of the reason I decided to leave, because this practice ended, was we would give out, in addition to the community development block grant funds that a couple of our committee members make a determination on selecting the beneficiaries of, we would also have about, I think, 30 to maybe 50,000 in city funds, general funds, that we would support an allocation of through applications and approvals of the committee, and we would maintain ongoing relationships with the nonprofits that these funds would support. So it added a totally different flavor to what the purpose of this committee was, because we were actively involved in the organizations that the committee and therefore the city was supporting. And I'd just like to mention it, not to say that we need to re-implement it, but it was something that was, I think, a really good feature of this committee, because it allowed for the city to show face to strong and vital nonprofits in our community, and also to show support and to maintain ties and relationships with. And also, it did support organizations like FAM or the Boys and Girls Club and others and Laundry Love, that were supporting those that are kind of on the fringes, and so it was our way of, being that sounding board for, hey, which organizations really need our support.
So we didn't get to do that this year.
Well, it's been, I think, two years
Yes,
now.
it has.
So it's interesting, I'd like to come full circle with both of the comments. One, you said you'd like to put things on here that you can actually accomplish.
Sure.
I think you're right. I think homelessness is being looked at every level of government, from the federal government all the way down to cities, and the accomplishments are probably not going to be impacted by this committee, no matter what you come forward with, even best practices and whatnot. They're being made at this state and county and local level, and that's how homelessness is going to be addressed. And you've seen that happen over the last few years. But I think this group really could accomplish, and I love the idea of, you mentioned seniors, and then you mentioned the people that are just the one paycheck away. I would love to see, again, this is just, since we're spitballing, I'd throw out an idea where you guys might have some funding where we're going to go out and identify seniors that may not have either the social or the physical interaction that they need. They aren't getting a good meal every day, and they're not having the social, and so we're going to pay for their membership to be part of our senior center. And we're going to go out, we're going to scour those people out and say, come on down to the center. There's not enough seniors. That is a great senior center. It should be full every day, and it's not. So that's something I think you can accomplish that the community can get behind, because people there's no one in the community that's going to say, no, we probably shouldn't help those senior citizens that are having a hard time. I think everybody can jump on that, and it's something you can actually accomplish. Homelessness is one of those things that I think if you try to accomplish it, you'll get very frustrated in the end, because it will always be pulled up. I think that's what happened here. It's always going to be pulled up to the council level and say, whoa, 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 whoa. Be careful what you do, because we have these really tenuous relationships that we're trying to work and see. So that one might be frustrating.
And
to
my
me.
understanding from that council meeting is they pulled that back and said no. And wasn't it, we only want you to go to the other cities and find best practices? There was nothing with shelters or anything.
Right.
It was, we gave a list, we came up with a list of questions.
I've got to interrupt there. Ed Meyer did say, and look at home, at shelter, regional shelter. And
I don't know.
I went back and replayed it because it was a little bit vague. It could be interpreted as though only ask other cities what they're doing about regional shelter. So I clarified with Councilman Edmeyer, and I said, what did you really mean here? He said, well, I want you to look into shelters.
And then I don't think the other council members were aware.
I don't think they were
Yeah,
on board with
because
that
I don't
based on
think
what
they
Andy
did.
said.
I think
Yeah.
Lisa kind of stole my thunder, because I thought the best idea was make a list,
Yeah,
clear the list, so we know that it's good, and then when you ask everybody, I don't know about you, but my memory is horrible. If you said to ask somebody for 10 things, I'd probably get 6 or 7. I'd miss them. But if you're sending all this information out to local municipalities, you want to get the same questions answered, so you can do apples to apples
Right.
every
That's
time.
what we're doing.
Yeah, but I
Right.
mean, do we have a list of questions?
Yeah. They have the
We,
list.
we put that together at our last
List,
meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
We came up
We
with
already have
Can we,
Yeah,
do we,
yeah.
do we
So
need? oh,
We
do
already
vote for
discussed
that?
it and agreed to it. You were there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have, no, but I
Does
added-
Andy need
I
to
added
agree
5
to it
more
too, or-
questions.
Well, that was what I was suggesting, is that we share those questions with Andy and
Okay.
a list of who you're gonna be approaching so that he's aware, so that we're not duplicating efforts.
Yeah, I would never edit your questions or your
Right.
questions, and we would want you to ask them, but I could give them in advance that, hey, we have a group helping our council deal with homelessness, and they're gonna be contacting some of your city officials, can you give them this advance? I'll tell you, people are much more willing to talk to you if they know what they're gonna be
What
asking.
they're gonna be asking.
Well, the other thing is you're paving the way and making an introduction as a senior level official in the
Right.
city, which carries some import and some weight, so that when Stuart and his cohort go to take these meetings, it's the way has already been paved a little bit. So that I could see where that would be beneficial.
Did you send the questions out to everybody? Emma?
It's on the
She's
minutes.
way ahead of all of us. So,
But I think it's important to clarify, Andy, that you don't want Stuart and the work group to find a way to open a regional shelter.
What I've heard from, so it was, I don't think it was legal in terms of the Brown Act, but the council at one point did make a motion that we do not want a homeless shelter in our community, right?
In the city,
Um,
right?
In the city. I don't know, first, that's probably not completely true. Our housing element indicates that we can have a homeless shelter in the zone we're sitting in right now, basically the business park zone. Sorry, you raised your hand, I know you want to say something. Say it.
Yes, so the council did make a motion and approve it to direct staff to not approve or permit any shelters within the city. That was not on the agenda, so the vote
That's
did
what I'm
not
saying,
count.
probably didn't count.
So however,
But send a message.
the direction was that the council was not supportive of finding shelter options within the city. There have been some other actions the city council has taken over the years. There was a proposal to establish an emergency shelter here in the business park. That was turned down by the council as well. However, the city does have an emergency shelter overlay zone that would allow for a private entity to come in and establish an emergency shelter. So we do have, per state law, allowances for emergency shelters. However, our council has given staff clear indication that they're not supportive of establishing a city-run emergency shelter in the city.
You know, the FAM has 2 shelters, don't they? Yeah, we do actually have 2 shelters in the city.
But those aren't city shelters,
Not
those are
city shelters.
privately
Fam
run by
shelters,
family.
shelters, yeah.
that's part of the frustration, is that you have all these good people doing
Doing
good
good
work,
things.
and it doesn't count. It doesn't count. You know, even if you support them, it doesn't.
Well, it doesn't count regarding Martin being able to enforce
Yeah,
Martin versus
yeah.
Boise.
Yeah.
It counts for the people that are helped and receive housing and services. It certainly helps.
So let's talk about the Coronado model, because Coronado always says they've solved homelessness. And having worked in Imperial Beach for 10 years, I can tell you first, that's not true.
Didn't they just shove them south?
So where Camp Surf is where the homeless in Coronado show up, or hang out. And by the way, that is not in Imperial Beach. Camp Surf is in Coronado. I think people think it's in Imperial Beach. It's not. It's in Coronado. So they didn't actually solve the problem. But the problem they did solve is in the tourist areas of Coronado. What they did is they did purchase available space from Father Joe's. So every night they put homeless people on the bus, take them over to Father Joe's. The ones that want to go, there are, both of them in Coronado go. Just kidding. Coronado is kind of an interesting case. But
It's a
so
special case.
so it is possible that the city could address its Martin versus Boise obligations through private means. That is possible. But what we would have to do is we would have to secure, let's say that we had 30 homelessness, but we've heard from any number of attorneys or whatever, if we had 10 beds, if we had 10 beds available on any given evening, we could probably be more aggressive with homelessness. But the city would have to probably rent from you or have availability on any given evening, 10 beds available for that purpose. And I don't think we've ever contracted for any beds or anything at this point, right? But it is theoretically possible, so that's a good thing to bring up. That is a way to address homelessness in a way that skirts the political challenges of having the city build a shelter. So while we're not Coronado and we don't have those financial resources, we do have some resources that could be used for that purpose and could probably meet our Martin versus Boise. I don't know how many beds you have. I don't know.
It might meet Martin versus Boise, but it wouldn't meet a lawsuit.
We have families.
Yes.
The secondary part of that is that the enforcement arm of our city is the Orange County Sheriff's Department. They also have certain directives that they have from the sheriff that have at times been a little bit different or maybe less aggressive than what we would do as a city. So there's a lot of dynamics around homelessness that make it very, very challenging. And, you know, that's again the case in the south part of the city. They'll go down there, they can enforce anything that's not a municipal violation. So if there's someone's doing drugs or someone's doing something that is a state crime, they can do something. But if they're smoking or drinking or something in the municipal code, there's really nothing our sheriffs can do. And even if they do something aggressive, like if someone's down there dealing drugs, because it's in San Diego County, if they arrest someone and they go to court, we have to send someone to downtown San Diego to go to court. So some of our sheriffs, so our sheriff's going to say, wow, that really worth our resources. That's San Diego County's problem. Get them up there to deal with it. So, but the challenge with that is, and you guys are the committee that's supposed to be dealing with this, none of your neighbors realize that. They're just mad at you because we haven't dealt with it. They don't care that there's a sign right there that says San Diego County and Orange County. They don't care. It's their neighborhood that's being impacted, and yet they're dealing with it. North Beach was a lot easier to deal with, believe it or not. North Beach was a lot easier to clean up than this area has been, even though there was a lot more homeless there when we started.
Once Dwayne left, that whole problem solved itself.
Well, I heard this week that a guy got held up in his own garage. That didn't happen?
That's the key to what I'm sure you've heard from Adam over and over again. The important role that Troy and Carly play, a lot of people think they don't do anything. What they do is they actually go out and say, they know these people very, very well, and they say, okay, you want to fix this problem? Let's get some housing for Dwayne. Get housing for Dwayne, problem fixed. So that's why it's so important for them to be out there, even though it seems like you're out there every day, but we're not seeing some homeless go away. They identify that key person that you need to remove from the situation for.
You know that Dwayne got PSH, right?
Mhm.
And then you know that he's somebody
More than
else.
once.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few times.
That's why we're still,
He's a
we're just
persistent-
holding our breath. So.
Yeah,
Good Lord.
because I was down at North Beach this morning. They weren't even feeding. I mean,
No,
that
it's gone.
it's gone. I mean,
So
that
it
makes
takes
such
about
a
3 weeks to
difference.
change habits, as
Yeah.
we all know. And we hope that even if, well, now Dwayne brings his own crowd, but we hope even if Dwayne comes back now,
Yeah.
that hopefully, and then, I remember when I first introduced this whole idea of the North Beach placemaking plan. People said, oh, you're missing the point. You don't get it. We're just trying to get rid of the homeless down there. And what we kept trying to say is, no, it has to be more holistic. It can't be just getting rid of the homeless. You have to replace it with, let's get that restroom cleaned up. Let's do better landscaping down there. Right now, we're getting public input to replace the playground that's down there. You had to replace it with something besides homelessness, because now the families are back, and you
Right.
have to keep them.
You want them to
And
stay.
that's
Right.
so I think homelessness has to be this really, really comprehensive approach. So if you want to get rid of homelessness on the south part of the city, that roadway's got to be different. Is it parking?
So why don't we get that and do more parking sideways? Because they can't sleep on the
So-
street, right?
So we have a request into Supervisor Desmond's office.
Uh huh.
Say, give us the property.
Yeah. That would solve the
You know,
problem.
it doesn't, we won't annex it, but we will own it and we'll be able to do
And
something
it would
with
give
it.
us more parking.
I think we turn around and give it to the state.
Right.
Assemblymember Davies just told me we need more parking for the state park. We can maybe go in there and put in some parking.
Right.
That hasn't gone very far. If you know anything about San Diego County, it's not government, it's a monarchy. And there's one person that makes all the decisions for all of San Diego County right now, and she is a very nice lady. I would consider her a friend, know her well. But until we get Nora Vargas to say that they want to give us that piece of property, probably nothing will happen. So we've tried to let Desmond do it now for about 3 weeks. Nothing's happened, so I know Nora fairly well. I think my next reach is, he might get upset, but we've got to do something about it. So my next reach would probably be to Nora and say, come on, we need to get this done. And if she says do it, that happens. It's just, but if you know anything about San Diego County,
Solve the problem.
you know, they went from Lorena Gonzalez to Nora Vargas, and they kind of run the strip. So.
Does anybody have any other questions for Andy?
Yes, I'm sorry. I need to shut up and listen.
No, don't. You're a wealth of information.
I have one other down there. There's a motor home that I believe is
Camping. Oh,
that's parked and has generators on all that dry brush. And supposedly that motorhome has been known to sell drugs to kids. A lot of kids go in and out of there.
is that further
That
east?
lazy, it's
up
Lazy
Christianitas
Daisy.
Road?
It was up in the business park here. We got rid of it up.
Here.
It was up
No,
here.
it moved.
It moved, and then it moved down to Calafia, and now it's on the road going up to
Christianitas.
Christianitos.
Mhm.
Right. I think it's San Diego.
That particular one, that is actually, so they're very small.
Yeah, no, there. Yeah,
Everything up to the fence is owned by the United States Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Everything right up to the fence, which separates Orange County from San Diego County, is owned by the Navy. But they lease an area to the state parks for San Onofre State Park.
okay.
And that motorhome
It's in the state parks.
just kind of goes back and forth, so that if you call the Marines, they'll say, oh no, I'm on the state park. And you call the state parks, they'll say, no, they'll move it and they're on the Marine base. And you know, they're very good at that game. I don't know the latest on that particular one.
You know which one I'm talking about, Adam?
Because it gets a little bit out of our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And it's quite a ways away.
It's going to catch on fire, unfortunately.
Well, I'm just worried it's going to take that whole hillside.
Well,
of
that's my
houses
point.
Down. Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
They warn us, I think next week again, they're going to do a sweep of the state park. They'll give us a heads up, just so you know, we're going to do a sweep of the state park. It was about a month ago, I talked to the director of the state park and said, yeah, we're going to do another homeless sweep here probably in the next month or so. They don't give you a date because, you know,
yeah.
they don't want everybody to know. That's kind of what San Diego County does now. They'll say, we're coming on Tuesday. And you'll notice everybody moves their stuff out of the way and they clean up. It's like housekeeping.
Yeah.
They clean up their stuff.
Well, it's like a hotel.
Yeah.
Room
Yes,
service.
It's a little bit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little frustrating.
Okay. Anything else, anybody? Are you comfortable with the information that you have?
I realize that I'm not going to be contacting any other city council people from different cities. Yes.
That wasn't my question. No, I mean, just because, I think we came up with some really good questions. And so if Andy can pave the way to other city managers to get those questions answered in a smoother fashion for you and open some doors, are you and your work group open to that? Would you like that to happen?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're clear on next steps.
Yes.
Madam Chairperson, I've got a wrestling match to go to at the high school at 5 o'clock. So
Yes, sir. We are going to move on through.
yeah, I've got I'm leaving at 10 off no matter what.
Good. And you're going to take some cake with you, please.
I took an 8-1. I can't.
I know, but can you take a couple?
I'll
Because
leave it
I have an
before-
extra
I
dozen
got
here
it,
too.
I'll tell you.
Tom, did you have a question?
Yeah, the question is arose earlier as to whether this committee is really an extension of the council or really an extension of staff. As a mere member of the public, I see it as a third function, which is if I go directly to city council with my wonderful ideas as to homelessness or anything else, there could well be a big gaping hole, and I will walk away from that podium with egg all over my face. I once had a wonderful scheme for addressing homelessness that required the support of the business community. I joined the Chamber of Commerce, was directed over to Tyler, and Tyler said, Tom, wonderful plan, but look at this gaping hole. And I said, thank you for telling me about it before I went to the city council and not afterwards. So Tyler's definitely the right guy to have here. And I can come with my ideas, and you guys can say, this is good, here's a problem. I can adjust the problem before I go to the city council instead of afterwards. And just the opportunity for you guys to act as a sounding board to some of my crazier ideas before I go on record and have egg all over my face when it gets shot down, that's an immense, immense help. And God bless you for being here.
Yes.
We had a community member at our last meeting come to us with an idea and a need for the community. And Tyler actually pointed out some useful information, and it formed and shaped the way that community member presented to council.
Exactly.
So it's case in point what you're saying, Tom, and we're, in our small little stamp on the world of San Clemente, we really do care, and we do want to make a difference, and we want to do some things that are impactful. So, all of us are retired, have families, have positions, we work, we own companies, what have you. So we're just here because we want to help.
And God bless you for that.
Well,
You're making my life easier.
and thank you for being participative and caring. It takes a village, right?
Absolutely.
Well, just exactly what Tom said, and that's why, again, I didn't put words up there to upset you. But it's exactly what happens. Say you're a developer, you come in, you don't go to the council and say, I want to develop this piece of property. You start with staff, and they walk you through, and they say, oh, you got to get this done, that done, this done, and that done. That's how I mean it as an extension of staff. That was a compliment. It was not a derogatory. It was.
I don't think anybody took it
Okay, good.
in a derogatory manner. No,
We don't want to be.
we just want to help.
Yeah.
Call me a chicken. I don't care. Call me a potato. I just want to help. So, does anybody else have anything else for Andy?
Thank you, Andy, for
Okay,
being here.
Andy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We certainly
Mind if I
appreciate
listen?
it.
You want me to-
No, stay.
I'm going to shut up, I promise.
And then don't shut up. And we have another guest, Mr. Adam Greenman. Adam, is there anything you'd like to address the committee on?
No, I just, congratulations on getting your work plan approved by council.
It's really good.
I think we'll look forward to a very productive year.
Well, we're excited. We have a really activated group, I'll say, a passionate, activated group. So I'm happy you're here. So in any case, let's move on because Mr. Vale has a pressing issue, and I think we all want to move forward. Okay, so regarding the community resource fair, first item on our work plan. Thank you, Miss Tamara, for getting us the flyer. So the date is set. It's March 7th. Front and back, English and Spanish. I'm going to, and I'll take this as my item. I can get these printed so that we can distribute and determine where we want to hand them out in the community. And then I'm also going to contact San Clemente Times to find out about placing an ad and what the timing of that will look like so that we can advertise it to the community. And we can divide up now that we have the formal flyer so that we can invite people. We can divide up the master list and then determine, and it'll be, because member Schechter's not here. So it's you and I, Stuart. So we can divide up who we're contacting and so forth.
Tamara, do you have this on electronic format you can forward to me?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do
Could
have
you send
this
us the
on
PDF?
electronic
Yes,
format?
absolutely. I was just going to ask who you wanted me to send it to.
Both of us would be great. And if you can do it, do you want it double-sided or do you want it single-sided?
Good question. I don't think we're going to have that many Spanish
That's what I was
need
thinking.
for the Spanish language. I think it's nice to have a couple,
Right.
a few, but the majority need to be in English.
So if you could send us separate PDFs.
They're actually separate PDFs.
Beautiful.
I just combined it to do it both sides.
Well, and we saved some
Yeah.
paper, which is nice. Okay.
I was just going to say, I work with a company where we would send out flyers like that.
Mhm.
with magazines. So we'd send them the flyer. They would place it in a sleeve with the magazine. It was a motorcycle magazine. Go out to, and it was actually quite inexpensive. It was surprisingly inexpensive. If you talk to San Clemente Times, you might ask if that's an option.
Oh, to include it in
Yeah.
the
So it's
little
actually
sleeve.
Yeah.
It's actually a flyer
I like
that
that.
goes in with the with San Clemente Times.
Okay, thanks, I'll do
Are
that.
we gonna put it in the utility bill or try to put it in the utility bill or something? No?
No, that's something else. That's the AI generated questionnaire was gonna go in the utility bill. Okay, so that's the update status on the community resource fair. Stuart and I, now that we have the flyer, we're gonna divvy up our list of providers and we're gonna start making contact and confirming individuals.
Do you know Shelley and Don Kindred?
Yeah.
You might want to see if you can, you're right at the timing for them to get it in their spring publication of the San Clemente Journal.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know Shelley, but if you have her contact information, I see her on
I just saw
Facebook.
her this morning.
Okay. That would be great, thank you. And then, Andy, based on,
Katrina Foley would probably fund all of this. Just ask her.
really?
Just saying, yeah.
I don't know her, do you know her? I think you might.
Katrina Foley.
She was at the last one. She attended.
Did she?
She has a whole budget for stuff like
Wow.
Yeah, she attended. She had a booth.
this. She's a
Oh,
county
she
supervisor.
wasn't there, but her staff was there.
No, she wasn't there. I didn't see her. Did you?
Her staff was there. I talked to her staff.
She comes here a lot.
Yeah.
So I have an idea. Let's run it up the
I'll
flagpole.
get on you offline because I think.
I know that I
it's
talked to her
not
staff.
gonna be
She has two staff.
I like
members
it.
over there.
Thank you. So, what do y'all think about making some introductory comments? Our city manager making some introductory comments at the community resource fair, and perhaps Katrina Foley, if she wants to be involved, making some comments at the resource fair, and then sort of give it an official intro and launch.
I will tell you this. I'll run it by the mayor, who
Okay.
who would probably be.
He may-
But he's the face. You know,
He-
so I
he
was trying
may-
to make-
yeah.
I work for him, and he's the good looking one. He's the eye king.
Maybe he
Maybe the mayor would like to speak.
Yeah.
And maybe Councilmember Enmeyer. Maybe we invite, because they have their little homeless subcommittee, right?
Well, it's Enmeyer and Loeffler are the subcommittee.
Well, now that's too many people. I'm only kidding. Well, let's talk about it and we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Fair? Excellent. Okay, so as an offshoot of the Community Resource Fair is updating the resource registry, I'm taking that as my item. So as soon as we have all of our participants and we know that the resources provided are active and current and we have all that current information, I'll get with IT and find out who our guru is from staff that can update the resource link on our city website. Okay, so that'll be straightforward.
I have another blurb. I told Tyler this. I want to see the registry as a QR code that we can stick. First get approval, clearly, but then put in different places.
Cord?
I'm sorry.
Cord?
I apologize.
QR code?
No, they become very popular.
I think it's a great
I
idea.
think it's a great idea.
I use QR codes all the
All
time.
the time. Yeah, I
All
do
the
too.
time.
You can't
Restaurants
go, you
use
can't
them all
go
the
to a
time.
restaurant anymore without.
Yeah, I was gonna say you need a phone for a restaurant.
Well, and sometimes your Amazon TV will make you re-register and you have to walk up to the TV with your phone and do your QR code so you can watch your movie. In any case, thanks, I made that. The next item, the mentorship program for high school students.
Yeah, it's a project in development. As we know, it's really kind of led by this committee at the chamber, which is led by Susie Lance, and she's been working hard on this Rising Stars breakfast for high schoolers, and with Chris Carter, the principal at San Clemente High School. So right now we're looking at March 4th or March 25th as the kickoff breakfast for the Rising Stars program. We just need confirmation, so I'll keep the committee updated. And the Workforce Development Steering Committee for the Chamber, which myself and Rosemary and Corder are part of, the next meeting will be on January 31st, immediately following the Government and City Affairs meeting for the Chamber. So that'll be a standing meeting that happens after the Government and City Affairs Committee meetings. Will be the Workforce Development Steering Committee meeting, which we're invited to be a part of.
And what's the purpose of the Workforce Development Steering Committee?
So Rising Stars is, one of, as I've discussed in the past, we've had multiple different projects at this committee over the years, job fairs, mock interviews with high school students, with the AVID students. This Rising Stars program is one project that we're working on developing and hopefully sustaining for years to come. But another, as is directly related to our committee, is the mentorship program, which we're working to develop. So I can give another update on that. We've had a discussion with the county, so the Ready Set OC program with the county, which is a workforce development program that funds the wages of young people. It could be students or non-students, but they have to meet certain criteria in order to participate in the program. And then businesses have to directly apply in the program in order to be a participating business. So it's kind of a strenuous process. But I think that as we get into these discussions, and this is really the point of the steering committee, we'll want to have as many students as possible be funneled through that Ready Set OC program because it's funded, it's paid for, and there's a lot of availability for more students. So we'll want to help to facilitate business participation in the program, in the Ready Set OC program, so to make it easier for them. Also to well advertise and help facilitate students to be a part of the program. But we know that there will be students that won't qualify for that program, and so that'll be another discussion point for our committee, is to really determine what would be a good way to provide opportunities for internship or mentorship for students that don't qualify for that program. To give an example, and I mentioned this in the past, the city of Vista has implemented a program through their chamber, which is funded through, they originally got funding through the COVID funds. I forget what it's called, the whatever that.
Stimulus.
Yeah, one of those, the CARES Act, I think.
Yeah.
And so they were able to hire a staff person that facilitates the program through their chamber and also pays the wages of the students that participate in the program. So they have their own internal criteria for the program that's not mandated by the county or anything. That funding has been exhausted, but they've found other funding for the program, so they continue it that way. Whether our chamber or any group in our community would be able to sustain the level of funding that would require is questionable. We can explore it, but it would definitely require sponsorship or grants or something like that. So in the immediate sense, really targeting the Ready Set OC program, which is already funded and facilitated, I think is going to be our focus. So
Here's something to throw out to you that was brought to me by a city council member, just to see what you think.
Sure.
And he said, is there any way, because this is kind of the shape it was taking last year and then it kind of fell flat, but is there any way to approach local businesses, for example, Sparky, or San Clemente Times, or Melrose on the OC, retail shops, to see if they would be willing to mentor students, and students would go in and volunteer maybe 8 hours a week or
Yes.
6 hours a week to go into that business. And this doesn't involve pay. It would be volunteering to help, maybe to do a little marketing, do a little stocking, do a little HVAC training, whatever it may be, to learn a little bit about some of the trades or some of the other opportunities that may exist, to determine, a true mentorship program, but more of a volunteer nature where the businesses would be interested, or maybe the businesses would even fund, 10 hours a week in wages or something, so a student could come in, be paid, get to know that business, and see, whether or not that might be a career path for them in the future. Is that anything we could do in a smaller sense?
Possibly. I mean, the question really is, who facilitates and administers the program, and who's responsible if something goes wrong, right? So that's something we wouldn't.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
The key.
yeah.
Right.
So it's important to, not just throw something together just because we want to do something. We want to build something that's really sustainable, and so
that's why you're advocating for Ready Set OC, right?
yeah, in the near term. But yes, we will be having discussions with this chamber steering committee about maybe just having something that's a little more informal and non-paid. But in order to do so, we'd want to make sure that we're, crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's and doing things the proper way.
Okay, I'll report back because I said I would. I think the point is there are, macro things that can be done, and then maybe there are micro things that can be done within the next several months in the community, at the community level.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
an idea.
And the Rising Stars Breakfast, I think, is one example of a micro thing that the chamber is doing, and will continue to do job fairs. And so, kind of as I said from the start, this is really me wanting to just participate or include the city in what the chamber is already doing, and so.
Well, and it seems very well organized in that there are many aspects. You're touching students in a number of different ways.
Yeah.
So if somebody doesn't qualify for something or isn't excited about something, there's something else that they can take a look at.
Sure.
So, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Rosemary,
Madam Chair, I don't mean to interrupt, but Dick needs to leave.
Oh, we'll do Dick now.
We can just
You mean now?
documents before-
Yes, sorry about that. Thank you.
So it's a grandson wrestling, and my
Oh,
wife
you
told me
gotta
I
go.
will be there. So.
You gotta go.
I thought you were wrestling.
Well, then we all have to adjourn and go
Those
support
days are
Dick.
gone. Okay, so the senior center. This Saturday at 9 o'clock, I have Gary Brown. And we've been around for 40, 50 years. Gary Brown was the last police chief that the city had. But that's not that Gary Brown. This is the Gary Brown who does upholstery and carpet cleaning. And he's coming into the senior center at 9 o'clock on this Saturday morning to do 104 chairs.
Perfect.
How exciting.
Less than $1,000, which got approved by the city council. So, question is, who do I have him make the invoice out to? City of San Clemente,
Yeah.
senior center, or what?
Well, the city's paying the
The city's paying the
$1,000,
bill, yeah.
so then
City
I
of San
would
Clemente.
think it would come to the city of San Clemente.
Okay, I'll bring it in Monday,
Okay.
next week. To
Okay,
you, I guess?
sure,
Okay.
I'm here.
All right, the painting, Beth still hasn't got to me on how much paint she has. She says, I know I got enough paint, and it's a question of picking a day in end of January or end of February, because I'm going away for 2 weeks in the middle of end of January. And we're gonna organize a volunteer
Paint Day.
group to come in and paint the inside of the senior center.
Right.
Outside is yours. This is belongs to the city.
I'm going to volunteer for the inside.
Okay.
So am I.
Anyway, that's the plan, that's where we stand.
Excellent. So you'll keep us posted on the needs for volunteers for Paint Day.
Yes.
And
And if we need to get paint,
you know what?
No, you don't need to get paint. And I'll get probably Denalt's, I'll get one of the Denalt boys to
okay.
donate some brushes and.
It's good to have friends in high places, Jimmy.
And if after
Before he leaves, can I say what I was gonna say at the end of your
material,
Yes,
I have
please.
a bunch of extra upholstery material.
Oh, this
Need
is
anything?
just clean, just clean.
Okay.
Dick, wait one sec.
Yep.
Andy wants to address this while you're
This is what
here.
I was going to say at the end of your meeting. One, if you ask me how to put together a municipal budget, or you ask me how to, a lot of the management issues of the city, I would sit here and go, it was interesting sitting here. I have no idea this stuff is all new to me. So it's fascinating to hear that people are doing, I don't know anything about any of these things. That's why I think it's so cool we have a group that's doing this. So I appreciate that you guys are doing something, and part of the reason I couldn't shut up is it's new. It's fun. This is great. It's not looking at the budget again. This was actually, thank you for inviting me, because it was something new. This is all new to me. I've never seen this stuff before. It's just stuff the city manager doesn't get to deal with very often. So the fact that you're including me and asking me to be included in this stuff, usually
We're happy to have
No,
you.
usually people say, "Oh, that's the city manager. He won't be here." Are you kidding? This is really cool. I want to be part of the community as well, but you get left out because a lot of people think you don't want to be involved. Of course I do. So thank you very much for letting me come.
So, yeah, thanks.
We appreciate
The other
it.
thing I want to mention is, as I walk out the door, is the 12, 50, actually the 18 questions I think there are now.
Yes.
So you'll get a copy of those from Tamara or whatever, and
Gone.
that's our basic questions. 9 or 10 of them came from our meeting. Stuart and I met with Carly and Troy, and those are the questions we came up with. And then our group got together last month, and we came up with additional questions. So we've got a
Excellent.
lot of questions. Maybe there are too many questions. I don't know, but anyway, you
If I
get.
get any pushback of them saying, you know what, our council members just don't want to talk about this right now, I will let you know. Hey, this
We're not talking to city. We're only talking to staff.
Oh, perfect.
So these are questions to staff. I know who to go to Mission Viejo. I think I know who to go to Dana Point and San Juan. So I think in Laguna Niguel, that'll be it. That's enough for us. That'll give you.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a heck of a lot.
So, but it's an
you want me
ongoing
to send
process.
it to city managers, Mission Viejo, Laguna Niguel,
I'll get with you once you get the questions approved, okay?
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Thanks for the cupcakes, yeah.
Hey.
See you guys. Hey,
Hey, do you want to take any for your grandson?
No.
He's got to make weight.
He's running around with a plastic on it.
Yeah,
Oh.
Take down the weight. Oh my God.
That's like an I Love Lucy show with the plastic. I'm dating
Okay.
myself.
For
Okay.
every 15
Every
minutes,
15 minutes.
we got approval, and the date is March 6th and 7th.
I'll be darned.
So that's what's, and at where it is right now, St. Clemente High is having a meeting today.
So you can go do this and then go over. to
There you
the
go.
Resource
Right.
center.
There we go.
It's going to be a busy day.
So the high school right now had a meeting of who kids filled out an application, and it was an informational meeting. And then obviously we have finals and Christmas break. So the next meeting is going to be in the beginning of January, and we're going to have a highway patrol officer that's in charge, the Orange County Fire captain that's going to be running his portion. And I'll get Captain Christian in because, Andy, we wanted to, in the past when they've done it in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really not realistic because that parking lot's so small at St. Clemente High. So they want to do it on Pico. So we would be shutting down.
They want to do it on Pico? Oh,
So
how cool.
So we'll be shutting down the street from Frontera, where San Clemente High is, to probably we're thinking right where that U-turn is. So if people get off, they go to McDonald's, Starbucks, and then do a U-turn and get back on. But it would only be for about an hour. And Captain Christian said, just give me the logistics. We can, they'll take care of it.
Wow, sounds cool.
So
So this,
it
do you
will
know
be
what? Do you know what every
very
15 minutes is?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
great.
That's not what my deer in the headlights is.
It's
Exposing Pico.
I know.
Well, we
Pico
were
got
thinking,
closed just to do some actual real work.
Right.
And holy cow, I got more than one email.
well, we were thinking
That
we
you
would
did?
send out, put notices everywhere to kind of stay away from it. So people aren't, number one, flipping out about all the activity, the sirens and all that stuff. And the school.
Oh, people are going to be losing their minds
Yeah.
about what
That's what I mean.
happened.
Well,
no
the-
matter how you try to get word out.
Right.
some
The
people-
school will be sending out notices to everyone, to the families, to everyone. I live in Marblehead. I'll get our board to send something out. So they looking down, they'll know. But I mean, it's going to be in the morning, so after school, maybe 10, 11 o'clock. But it just is so much more realistic of an accident if you're out there versus in a parking
It
lot.
gives me chills to think about it.
Use those portable billboards.
Yeah, so that's kind of
Oh, that's
where
a good
that whole thing
idea.
is right now.
Okay, and then, oh, sorry.
Oh, no. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
After your January meeting, by the time you come back to us, can you please let us know what you need in terms of people to escort the children
Okay.
that are victims, et cetera, et cetera?
They do need when they take the kids out of school, and that
They need a
accident
Grim
is that
Reaper,
day.
right?
Well, the school's doing all that.
Oh, okay.
The kids don't go home that night because this is a lesson for the parents also, because so many parents provide alcohol for all these kids, and you've just watched your kid. You know the kid's alive, but you watched your kid in an accident, and your kid isn't coming home at that night. So they need a male and a female person that stays with them overnight, and it can't be a teacher. So I will do the female. Someone, you want to do the male,
Sure.
and we just have to be background checked, which is no big deal. And
Well, it's just that
we
bank
go in a
robbing felony,
hotel
but
and-
other than that.
yeah.
I'm
So it's
busted.
just more chaperoning them.
Do you know if they considered the upper campus parking lot or the Presidio side lot?
You know what? Oh, that's a good idea.
Just for
Logistics, yeah, that might be easy. Okay,
just-
I'll bring that up for them.
just to
Okay.
consider.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
I
a
will
good,
bring that up. Yeah.
good suggestion. Okay,
Okay.
thanks, Rosemary. That's exciting.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. So the next one, San Clemente High School Humanitarian Award and Mentoring.
Okay, and again, with this, we're going to do a flyer for it. And I'm going to work with Mark, and we're going to put it in all the junior classrooms or have them handed out to all the junior students. But we'll do it when we come back after break, when they come back after break, because
Right.
right now they're on finals and they're not even thinking about
So
it.
this will be more Q1.
January.
Okay.
And I think Paula Cole had sent
Yeah.
an email to us, so maybe we could set up. a
Yeah,
meeting
that's what I'm
with her.
saying. Let's get a meeting with her and what we should put on the flyer, and then we'll get that in.
Cool.
Excellent. Perfect. And then reach out to residents. Cord, where are we with this?
We're almost at a go point. Tamara set up the systems, and we did a proof of concept, and we worked out a couple of bugs, and it seems to work. I talked with Sean Raimondo yesterday, he will be moving on in San Clemente Times, so he's going elsewhere. But he said, I asked him, would this be newsworthy? And he goes, well, asking the question is probably more like advertising, but the results would be more newsworthy, and they'd be like a news story. So he goes, if you want to have something in the San Clemente Times, like, again, a QR code that links to where the actual questions are, we might have to pay for that,
Okay, so
in
can
San
you
Clemente
get
Times.
can you
Yeah,
get
I
a
can
quote on that?
I can talk and get the quote.
Okay.
But then the results might be, they might want to talk with Andy, or they might want to talk with the city council about their response. It's like getting the feedback.
Incredible information. This would be great.
Well, what I'd like to do too is I'm gonna feed the beast. I'm gonna maybe try and send you guys 10 first questions, and then see if you have any others.
Okay.
And then Stuart actually said, well, why don't we get questions from the population at large? And I said, I want to make sure the proof of concept works.
Could we
before
keep it small first and then get bigger later with the community? Or we could, I mean,
think
heck,
it's
we
gonna
could.
be, I'm quite happy with the group decision, so whatever you guys feel is.
One thing that you
proper.
could do, or that I could do on behalf of the Human Affairs Committee, is present it at a city council meeting and say, if you'd like to participate, here's how. And do a call out to the community, to your point, if people have questions that they want to add in.
My idea actually was to generate maybe 10 questions and say, or maybe even less, and ask the community, which of these are the most important?
Oh, that's
to
a good idea. So they force rank it, and then when you send
Yes.
it out,
That might be worth
And we
might
approach-
be worth a story from.
That's a good
the
idea.
San Clemente Times,
and
so.
then you can put it in the utility bill and go from there.
Yes.
The water bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I trend towards San Clemente Times because it's every week and it's out there.
Yes.
And just like everybody else, I never see my water bill.
Well, everything's online for a lot of people. Yeah.
So,
Okay, good. Well, you made a lot of progress there, so that's great.
We can do both.
yeah, I'm
Because I get a water bill every month. I get it electronically, but I get a water bill every month.
I'm open to all of it. So
Good stuff. So Dorothy Visser, we have that. I think it'll be fun, whoever wants to volunteer to go jump in and help pitch in
Oh,
and
yeah.
paint.
Get
Um,
paint under your fingernails.
Pardon?
Get some paint under your fingernails.
Oh, yeah, what the heck. It's very worthwhile. I'm glad that Dick has made so much progress on that project.
Yeah, he has.
The CDBG grants, we're not there
That's
yet.
not, that's not the spring.
Yep. And then character counts.
Yeah, I think we've made some pretty good progress with that program. We met with or spoke to representatives from each of the elementary schools in town, the public schools, and then we set a follow-up meeting with Jason Lamping at Character Counts. He's the director of the program at Drake University, and so what we've learned in speaking with all the schools is that they each have what's called a PBIS program, and that's administered through the district. It's positive behavior. I actually forget what the rest of the acronym is, but it's basically their positive behavior program that they roll out for all students, and then if there's any need for kind of correction or I don't want to say reprimanding, then there's a tier 2 and a tier 3. So all the schools have
So course correction.
a different matrix that they roll out, based on their school's mascot or their school's kind of culture and all these things. And so character counts by some of the schools it's wrapped into their PBIS program, their matrix. And so they have different character traits that they promote, and some schools call it character counts, some schools don't. And so the program administers they think it's fits really well with PBIS. And so what we learned in our meeting with them is we could invite them to come to the school district, which isn't, it's not exactly related to our city, but they could do a training for either one school or the entire district and all the PBIS representatives from the district, and just help them to understand the full character counts programs and all the 6 pillars and all the different components of that program, so that they can decide whether they want to incorporate or how much they want to incorporate into their PBIS matrix at their school. And so it seems to be positive. The principal at Truman Benedict I'd spoken with, Mike Brandt, he's the school that calls their program character counts, and he's also, I think, somebody on the PBIS committee or something for the district. So he was a good person to talk to, and he was interested in learning more. So I communicated with him after our meeting with the character counts people, and haven't heard back yet, but I'll kind of update from there. I think the next step would be to get him to speak with the character counts people and learn or get his questions answered, and then maybe bring it back to his committee with the district to see what their level of interest is. In terms of costs and what's involved with doing this program, it seems there's kind of 2 ways of being involved. One being becoming a member of character counts, whether it's a school or a district that becomes a member, and there's an annual cost associated with that, and it provides access to all the resources and things like that. Or getting a training and having like an in-person training with their staff so they can kind of go through all the different components of the program. The membership is not seeming to be required. The training is something that it seemed like they really recommend to help people. So it sounded like a training for about 40 people would be about $3,500. And I've already expressed that I'd be interested in exploring support from the community through Rotary or other things. Obviously, if the city can help with that, that'd be great too. But it's
I
something
think Katrina Foley has money for that.
Yeah, she might. And they also mentioned on our call that there's lots of opportunities for grants as well. So
Right.
There's plenty of funding that's probably available out there, and could be just something that's really supplementary to each of the schools or throughout the district as they're developing their PBIS matrix.
So an idea just came to mind.
Yeah,
That's really comprehensive. Thank you, by the way.
thank you.
So every year, Katrina Foley asks us for a list of items that the county can help us with. And I think, frankly, the kind of stuff she would like to fund is this human affairs stuff. So if you guys can get a list of that together, it's probably been about a month ago was their deadline, but for next year, I think we should be submitting this to the county because they have a certain amount of, each supervisor has a certain amount of discretionary funding that they can fund some of these projects. And this would be consistent with what Katrina Foley is all about.
So define next year,
That's great.
2024 or 2025?
Well, July 1st of 2024.
Oh,
It's a fiscal year. So yeah, you definitely,
I don't know where the fiscal year cut off, so that's why I'm asking. That could be really
Yeah.
a positive thing to do.
Yeah, and the soonest we'd want to do anything in terms of a training would be probably summer of
Well, then,
2024.
I was thinking the
Timing's
timing could
perfect.
align really well.
Mhm.
So another idea is to go to San Clemente Times to parlay off of your idea, Cord, and talk about how Truman Benedict is running their character counts program
Yeah,
and do something local, a local news story.
sure.
I mean, we do it about sports teams and achievements and different things that, you know.
I mean, they're doing a great job. I mean, if anybody's interested in this stuff, like in all the conversations I had, I don't want to talk up Truman Benedict too much, but they're doing a really good job, and they're making videos, and it's really interesting to see just the impact that these types of programs can have on the kids. And
So think of the positivity if that was a news story about Truman Benedict, and you were interviewed and the principal was interviewed and you talked about how the greater impact in the community. It could be really kind of cool. Have some of the kids in a photo that participate in the program.
yeah,
I mean, it could be a thing,
sure. I'm just focused on head to the grindstone,
I know.
just doing work.
But
But yes.
it's an interesting concept to make the community aware.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Solutions to address homelessness. I think we're pretty straight on that. Are we,
I think
Stuart?
we have a direction on where we're going to go with all of our questions.
Excellent.
I'd also like to explore if we could somehow use unincorporated land around San Clemente to find a way to put a roof over our homeless heads.
Andy, do you have a comment on that?
well, I think all the cities have approached the county and said, why don't we place it in unincorporated territory. And at least the feedback we got from, his name's come up a lot, I'm gonna have to invite her to the next meeting. Katrina Foley was, look, we're glad, we'll even pay for a shelter, but it needs to be among the cities, because the cities need to show dedication to the process. So that's kind of where it's going down. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep trying and that we shouldn't keep asking, but that's been the answer so far is, yeah, I'm glad to find a shelter for any city that's willing to put it in their city.
Is the reason they're doing that is the county doesn't want to assume lawsuits? Because then the lawsuit goes back onto the city?
Probably.
No, I don't know if it's that as much as if it's in a city. Well, building a shelter is one thing. Operations are always the most difficult part of any project. It's not building it, the building. It's having someone operate it. So we'll give you the money. We'll build a shelter for you.
But your city
But
has
we need
to
to
run it.
operate. Someone's got to operate it. And the county's just like us. They don't have people sitting around waiting to operate a homeless shelter. And they don't have ongoing funding. They have money that, yeah, we'll give
It's
you
one
money to
time.
build one, but then we want. So what I think that if we're looking for county money to build a shelter, the conversation might be more about is any city at some point willing to step forward and put a shelter in their community? And if so, are the other cities willing to step forward and pay their proportionate share of the operational costs?
I'm not sure it has to be in the city. I mean, if San Clemente puts the program forward and spearheads it, I'm hopeful that the council
Doesn't
will
have
say,
to
yeah.
be. That's just been the answer we've received.
How do the matching funds work?
So wait, can I back up before Andy talks
Sure.
about that? Because this is tangential to what Stuart asked. So what should the direction be, since Stuart has expressed an interest in finding, unincorporated county-owned land where a shelter could be opened? Is there any impact he and his work group can have on that, or is that kind of a stay away?
No, sure. I think right now, even though she has kind of made the comment that she'd like it to be within a city, no one's put forth a proposal that says, okay, here's a spot that we could all live with. It's in the unincorporated county. It serves all three of the southern cities. Could we put a homeless shelter there? And you put a proposal in front of the full board of supervisors, not just one. So is it possible? Yeah, in fact, I think that's the only, to be honest, I think we're all in agreement. The only way a shelter is going to get built in South Orange County with politics the way they are currently is in the unincorporated area. I mean, I don't think Dana Point is interested in putting one in their city. I don't think San Juan is. And the direction we received is that San Clemente isn't. So if there's a spot in between.
So is there a way for Stuart to contact the county supervisor's office, he and his group, and find out where that unincorporated land is and put together a theoretical proposal and take a look at costs associated and so forth? Is that a boondoggle, or is that worth his energy?
Well, there has been some communication at the council level. So there were council members that gathered from each one of the cities. We had a meeting with all of them. And they all agreed that it should be in the unincorporated area and that it ought to be somewhere. I guess there's an unincorporated piece of property somewhere near Costco. But everybody said, oh yeah, that's where it was going to go 5 years ago. You guys probably know more than I do. I wasn't here. Apparently, we almost pulled the trigger and we were going to build one in that unincorporated area. So there has been talk at the council level, but I think at some point someone's got to put a proposal out there for them to look at.
So back to my question. I mean, I hate to do this, but I just want to have a very clear understanding, because
We're not wasting
I'm sure you don't want to spend hours and hours of time and then say, wait a minute, I can't even present this, right? Is it worth Stuart and his work group investigating a potential proposal around building a shelter in that unincorporated area, attendant costs moving forward, like a 5-year plan or something of that nature? Because I would imagine building it, to your point, that getting money for the building is one thing, but ongoing operating costs of $1 million or $3 million or whatever it is per year moving forward is something.
Can I just add to that?
Sure.
Rather than, I'm not trying to build a proposal, I'm trying to explore the possibility of using that land. And then if that's a possibility, then we need to talk with the staff and the city council and say,
So what would
what would you like us to do?
walk me through, if you don't mind, what researching the possibility of using that land would look like in your mind, or what are you thinking?
Finding the land first. What land's available? Okay. And then once we find the land's available, see if it's possible that we could actually purchase the land or lease the land. And then if that could happen, then we would go to staff and city council and say, would you like us to work on finding a program to use this land?
How does that sound?
That's fine. That's fantastic. Because I think you're right. That's where it gets held up.
Because nobody's done the digging.
No one goes to get, okay, here's who owns the property. We actually talked to them and they said, yes, we'll sell or lease you the property. No one gets to that step.
So if you start uncovering ways to find that information out, I would imagine that if you rounded up the flagpole to Andy, he might be able to head you in the right direction if you want some input on where to go with it to try to find out.
Great.
I love it when an idea comes together. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you, Stuart. That's a hopeful new front to explore. Excellent. New business is our next item on the agenda. Do we have any new business?
I was just curious if the group would be interested in hearing a presentation from the Character Counts program administrators.
Absolutely, I would.
I would love it.
Yeah.
How about show of hands? Who would like to hear a presentation from the Character Counts folks? It's unanimous.
Okay.
That would be a
As long
big
as
fat
we don't talk as
yes.
much as Andy.
I'm fascinated being here. This has been so much fun because I never get to talk about this.
It's so
He's
nice.
right. I need to shut up, but it's been so much
No,
fun.
you don't need to shut up. We're glad to have you here. And look how much we accomplished. We probably saved 5 meetings and 25 emails by having
You
you
guys
here.
don't know it. This is cool.
So
to
it's,
talk about.
well, we enjoy it too. And actually, it's very flattering that you would join us.
Really. Thank
So
you.
character counts for the next meeting. How about?
I will work on that. Yes.
Thank you.
I haven't asked them yet. So.
Lisa?
Yes, sir.
Speaking of presentations, we talked last year about possibly having Jamboree come and give a presentation.
So our
Should we work on
city,
that too?
to my understanding, our city's already met with Jamboree Housing and the city council has done a tour and they're already down that path.
Okay.
Yeah, their first project was built in San Clemente.
Right.
In Toledo.
Pinnacle.
Down by me?
And
Yeah.
it's very attractive. They did
They did a good job on that.
So it's already in the works, to answer your question.
Fantastic.
Again, while Andy's here, just for my own edification, funding for said shelters and whatnot, and public-private partnerships, and what does and does not constitute what would allow us to apply these beds to Boise. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah. I was going to give him a yes or no answer because he thinks I talk too much. But you guys put me on the spot of a very, very delicate situation.
Right.
And so when I get nervous and don't.
Well, we
actually
didn't
talk
court
too
it.
much.
No.
No.
Oh,
That
okay.
subject is so difficult to talk
Right.
about. It
Right.
just is. But as far as that goes, I think our council would be more open to a creative solution like that than they would be to a homeless shelter. That's just putting it on the table to be real.
Okay.
In fact, they have talked about, because again, if you'll remember when we had the meeting in North Beach,
Yeah.
and
Right.
someone stood up and said, Coronado solved it. And so people have asked me, because they knew I worked right next to Coronado, how did they solve it? Well, they solved it by buying those beds. And people said, well, that's a really good idea. And I actually heard some council members say, well, that's a creative idea. Instead of having a shelter, maybe we should be working with FAM and other people who have these beds, and we should be securing it that way. So yeah, I think that's a real possibility.
One of the reasons I bring
Yes.
this up.
I just said yes, that's all I said.
Well, one of the reasons
Well,
I
we
bring
like
it up,
yes.
which is very interesting, it's interesting to me, is that I was going to meet for coffee, but it was a full-blown meeting with Chris Megason at Solutions for Change, and they've gone fully private because they had to, because of the way that they structured Solutions for Change. That's the way it worked out for them. They're ready to work with San Clemente, but it's threading the needle because they don't do things. They purposefully don't work with government entities because they can't do what they need to do and fulfill Boise.
Yeah.
So that's kind of That's one of those questions.
And
Like,
they've got beds, right?
you've got the answer. Well, they don't have beds.
No, they don't.
That's
And
right.
you
They don't
can't,
have beds.
people have to and it's a very, and I want to separate these two things out because you can't,
Yeah.
it's inappropriate to talk about solutions for change in that model and homeless shelter beds.
Yeah.
Because Solution for Change and that
Right.
program
Yeah.
doesn't have anything to do with shelter beds.
I understand that, but what does count is that they have something that works. And so if there's any little kernel that you can pull from a working, functioning product and move to your product, you should look at it. And that's all I'm going for.
So,
I'm not going for
I
solutions for
understand your
change
point.
next to Costco or anything like that. I'm going, to Stuart's point, how can we see what works for them and apply it to what we're doing? And that's kind of where I was going with it.
gotcha.
So
So-
I guess the other thing though is, Andy, how do you enforce? Okay, say we have shelter beds. I've got very close friends up in Newport Beach that are as frustrated as could be because they've spent millions on that shelter in Costa Mesa. And have you seen the tent city around Fashion Island? They can't enforce. They said it's like a big FU. And the officers arrest them and no one prosecutes them.
The Martin case is interesting. It doesn't say that you, basically what it says is if you can offer someone an alternative place to stay, then you have some ability to say, and then they turn you down and you say, well, you're not staying here. So you can move them. Okay, that's the legal part of it. Now you have to have sheriffs willing to do it. You have to, it's more complicated, but the first step, in order to be, for instance, even with these more aggressive homelessness, Dwayne,
Yeah.
for example, you have to first have the beds available so that you can say, well, you're not staying here. So, but Martin, in and of itself, just having the beds available doesn't mean that you can take them there. It just allows you to say, well, we've given you an alternative, we need you to move along. That's what these beds give you. That's why they don't expect you to have 30 beds for 30 homeless people. They expect to have 10 because most homeless aren't going to.
They're not going to go into shelter now.
So I have another question about most homeless aren't going to want to go to a shelter. It's a spin-off of that. Have we investigated Care Court and how we can apply it in San Clemente, and have we tried to participate in it at all?
Yes, we have.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Thanks,
Kind of
Adam.
like, have we explored Be Well, and does that work for us? Yes.
Well, for $1 million a year, Be Well works, right?
So one of the things about homeless that we learned when you interview them, it's not that they don't want to go to a shelter, but there's certain things in shelters that doesn't work for them.
Right.
They don't have anywhere to store their stuff. They don't necessarily trust the people in the homeless shelters. They want shelter, but the congregate part of it.
They want it their way.
They want it their way, yeah.
So one of the projects that I'm aware of that has been fairly successful, at least in the parks, is the pallet shelters that Chula Vista did, and they look like a little tough shed. But you go in there, and there's a bed.
Like the tiny homes.
Yes, they're like little teeny tiny homes. But
Yeah,
they're
I
like
think,
tiny homes.
aren't you going down to go look at those?
I've been to them several times.
Oh, okay. You're already down.
Those homeless people will go to. They'll stay there, they won't come back, because you provide them a place for their animals, you provide them a place to eat, there's wraparound services, but they have their own little spot where they can lock stuff up. That's really important to homeless people. That's their whole world. And the shelters usually
Can we
won't
put
let
that
them.
on unincorporated land?
Put it anywhere.
Ooh, tiny houses,
They don't
unincorporated
take very
land.
much space.
Yeah.
It's pretty
No, but
surprising
think about that,
many
how
of those
quick it could
are-
be.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's modular.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay.
when you're down, they go away. If you
They're
don't want them
called
anymore.
pallet homes?
Yeah. Or tiny houses, you can find it. Pallet homes or tiny houses. Thank you.
The ones in Chula Vista, I think they call it the pallet shelter.
In
Yeah.
Chula Vista?
There's two in
You'll
Los
see pictures
Angeles
of it.
too. There's one in Lancaster and there's one in Los Angeles too.
One in Los Angeles is actually owned by a private, but private nonprofit.
Right.
Yeah. City
So-
Angels, I think it's called.
Interesting. So that's, maybe look at that. Okay, excellent. Oral and written communication. Do we have any additional oral and written communication? Going. Communications from,
Oh, staff. I got the staff one.
Yes.
How's that?
yes, communications from committee members and staff.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew the last page of your packet is the 2024 meeting schedule.
I saw that, thank you. Excellent. Well, everybody, with that, I will say thank you for all your hard work. I'm very excited to see our projects moving forward in a really timely fashion. And a lot of productive things are happening, which is rewarding because we're not all here to just sit here and eat a cupcake and hang out. We're
Thanks
here
for
to.
the cupcakes, by the way.
You're welcome.
This is the coolest committee with the coolest subjects ever. The other committees are real, and they're working on boring government stuff. I mean,
I'm going to say, Andy said we're the
You can
coolest.
quote me, but this is not government stuff. This
Don't
is
think
so
I won't.
refreshing.
We're going to quote you. In any case, with that, I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah for those that are observant, a very Happy New Year, and we will adjourn to the next regular meeting of the Human Affairs Committee, January 9th, 2024, 3:30 p.m., same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.